two big pieces of water. I don't know if you call it legislation, but I guess water news. The memo for the CVP and the SWP that the president signed last week, and the signing of the American Water Infrastructure Act. What are the practical impacts, and what does it actually mean for the Valley farmers and other water consumers here in the Valley?
Well, the new Water Act, which I introduced, is part of this overall big piece of legislation that deals with all of our levees and fixing our current dams. It also has new financing. For the first time ever, we've got financing available to build Temperance Flat, Shasta sites, as all of our irrigation districts are going through FERC relicensing to be able to fix those dams, update them for safety. So this is the first time we've actually got federal dollars up front in an infrastructure bank that allows us to have low interest loans, upfront money.
And how much money could that mean for, let's say, Temperance Flat?
It is the full federal financing. So you're going to have local dollars, so you certainly have state water bond dollars, but the question always becomes, how do we have the federal dollars, or how do you take that out to the market to be able to float a loan on a big project like this? So this takes the market out and actually has the federal government that has the upfront money. It'll save us about $25 billion for our ratepayers because we don't have that high interest rate. We actually have the upfront money, and it streamlines the process so it doesn't take 20 years to build, but we want to build it within 2 years. This is focused on water, so you could put desalination plants in, you could certainly do groundwater recharge, but the biggest thing is above ground storage, being able to expand our lakes, our reservoirs, have green power through hydro, the most renewable power we have.
What was it like meeting President Trump twice a week? What was your role in getting both these things through?
Certainly exciting. Exciting because we've never seen this opportunity in California for new water storage in our lifetime. I mean, last time we built something was 1979. We built New Melones. So this is our opportunity to have federal financing, upfront money, save billions of dollars to taxpayers, and have the certainty on the conveyance. That was the big deal last Friday, is having the certainty that our water stays our water. If we've paid for it, we need to make sure it goes back to our communities and we have clean drinking water and ag water and waters for our cities.
You make it sound so easy.
It is, and it's been a group effort. Devin Nunes, David Valadeo, Kevin McCarthy all worked side by side on this to get this executive order done last week, and then having the water resources bill that included the new Water Act done this week. It is certainly a 1-2 punch, one on making sure that we're playing defense to keep our water, and having certainty for our farmers, but the two is making sure that we're actually focused on the future. This is the first time that we're actually able to see how we use state, federal, local dollars together and actually build it and build it now. And a month ago, we did the upfront bills on Shasta, on the authorization, as well as Phase 1, the $20 million for Phase 1 for the studies. And in the FAA bill, we streamlined the CEQA documentation so you can't sue. You have 150 days to sue so that we can actually get these projects done with streamlining regulation and force both state and federal government to move a project forward quickly, saving billions of dollars.
I was going to ask you, are you concerned about environmental lawsuits over which we've seen in the past?
Yeah, from a national environmental quality, the national EPA, as well as the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA and NEPA, it is something that has tied up all of these big projects, whether it's water storage or expanding highways, has slowed them down decades. And so you go through the CEQA process and fight lawsuits, and they drag out. And then you go through the NEPA process and fight lawsuits all over again, taking these projects 10 or 20 years out. Now you go through the entire process one time, and you have 150 days to sue. It was done bipartisan. It is now law, and I expect to see a lot of projects around this state expedited.
All right, switching now to immigration, we see the caravan of Honduran immigrants coming right out through Mexico. What's your thoughts on that?
A lot of concern. A concern for our border on making sure that we have a legal process to be able to come into this country, and that we back up our law enforcement agencies that are trying to uphold our current law, but also compassion for those that are trying to find a better way of life, trying to find a job, and those that are seeking asylum. But if you're seeking asylum from a country that you're repressed in, then you go to the next safest country. So we've got to work with our partners, certainly with Mexico, as this caravan is moving from country to country, to make sure that we're working together to have a lawful process.
President Trump has floated the idea that some of these people in this caravan, they may be Middle Eastern terrorists. They could be MS-13. It's hard to know if he's being literal or not. Do you believe that to be true, that some people in this caravan may be linked to terror gangs?
Over 10,000 people. This is the size of a medium-sized city now, are coming to our southern border with no checks and balances. They want to come across without passing a background check or knowing who's in there. I've actually toured a lot of the facilities here in the U.S. where a lot of immigrants are detained after illegally crossing our border, and I've talked to some of the individuals that have come over from India and the Middle East and have come here for a better life. This is a great country that has jobs, that has a strong economy, but we also follow the rule of law. And so I have concerns with the safety and security of our community and of our state and our country.
Do you think military or putting a military at the border, if it comes to that, is a good idea?
I think that having border security should be a bipartisan issue, and it's very frustrating to me that to see when Democrats had control of both houses and the presidency, they talked about border security. The Gang of Eight bill that came out had every Democrat senator supported the bill, had actually voted for the bill. Every Democrat member of the House signed on as a co-author. That had $46 billion. The president's only asking for $25 billion now to secure the entire border. Border security needs to be an American issue where we fix our overall immigration system, but we also give the American public a guarantee that our border is secure.
Keeping on the theme of international issues, Saudi Arabia and the apparent death of journalist Jamal Khoshoggi. What do you think Saudi Arabia's involvement is, and what should the consequences be?
I don't know what their involvement is. I'm seeing the same things that you are on the media and in the press, but I certainly have great concern anytime somebody is attacked and certainly murdered.
Do you think if it's proven that there's a link between the Saudi government and his death, should there be sanctions, change in the arms sales to Saudi Arabia?
I think that we've had a great relationship with Saudi Arabia. When I served in Desert Storm, we were actually serving out of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. So Saudi Arabia has been a good partner for us in the Middle East, but also that we've seen some great concerns with support for some terrorists. And so when you see something like this come up, it certainly is something that you have great concern about. We need to make sure that they are truly being a good partner to us before we actually force sanctions. So
back on the Homeland front, I saw you tweet about this today regarding we've seen suspicious packages, bombs at the homes of Clinton, Obama, Soros, various journalists or media outlets. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that inciting any type of violence into politics or politicians or targeting members of either party should never be something that people should be pushing. I mean, this is part of our democracy. And it's very frustrating to see. You know, it was one of the most horrific things that I saw was seeing my good friend Steve Scalise get shot. And now to see these types of bombs being put in places has that same type of shocking effect. It shouldn't be allowed anywhere in our society. And I don't think there's any room for it in the media to suggest, or members of Congress to suggest in this whole resist movement that they should be targeting people. We need to have some civility. But certainly law enforcement needs to do a proper investigation as expeditiously as possible and prosecute anybody to the full letter of the law. Right.
Now, we'll talk about this state marijuana tax idea. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this idea is and where you stand on it?
Well, certainly I'm against higher taxes, but I do feel that it is unconstitutional for Gavin Newsom to have a 50% tax, and for my opponent to support that. 50% tax on anything, I think, is too much. But certainly when you tax anything that much. If you attack cannabis with a 50% tax, it only forces it to go underground and to have cartels that are able to push it out there illegally.
Kind of defeats the purpose of legalization, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I don't know why Josh Harder or Gavin Newsom would support such a thing.
Well, speaking of Josh Harder, you're probably one of the closest campaigns you've had since you've been elected to Congress. Why do you think this campaign is so close, and where do you see it going in 2 weeks?
I don't think it's going to be a close election. To have somebody, this is the 5th time now that they've moved somebody in from outside of the district. This is somebody that was voting for Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco just over a year ago. To move him into the district and then pour tens of millions of dollars in advertising, you might be able to convince some people that you're not a Bay Area liberal, but I think most people are going to realize that Bay Area Harder is somebody that represents Nancy Pelosi and Bay Area values, not water storage and our way of life here in the Valley.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much for your time.
You got it. Thank you.